5, 4, 3, 2.
Tier 1 performance.
Hey guys, welcome back to Tier 1 Performance and In and Out Talks. We're here with today's special guest, Justin Anderson, former pitcher from the MLB, or current pitcher for the MLB White Sox, former pitcher for the Angels.
Yes.
That's correct. Yes, sir. All right, so going in, first off, where are you from, and then how'd you get started with your baseball career?
So from here in Houston, Texas, grew up not too far from here actually. So mom and dad basically called me in the room one day when I was 4 and asked if I wanted to play baseball. And I was like, sure, definitely want to do that. Like any other little boy wants to do probably. And kind of just kept playing year after year after that. And then progressed into, like, I started taking lessons around 9 years old. I was doing hitting lessons and pitching lessons and whatnot. And, from there I kind of realized that I was wanting to play more competitively. So we started doing travel ball and going all the cities, all the tournaments and whatnot. And that's been a lot of fun, all the time looking back. And then when I was about 11 is when I was 5th grade, going to junior high the next few years. I wanted to play those sports and whatnot, so I played football in the fall and then basketball that winter also, and that was good for me to get my first taste of organized sports and something else I haven't played in, so it was great. And then played football, basketball, and baseball all through middle school and obviously through high school, but I'd only played football and baseball in high school, and I played football just my freshman year, and then kind of like after that's when I realized I just want to focus on baseball, and just play baseball. I can do this,
So were you always like just a pitcher, or did you play everything when you were young?
Yeah, we all kind of do everything. There are some people that they don't ever really pitch, and that it's fine for everyone too. But I would say most of us all did both growing up, and then probably in high school you might do a little bit of both. You might be a guy that comes in once every now and then to help just throw one inning or whatever, something like that. Nothing crazy. But then, there's some of us that we were doing both a lot. So I was doing both in high school, and then I got recruited to do both. I went to UTSA, played there for 3 years, and I played right field and pitched for 2 of them.
Okay.
So that was pretty awesome. My freshman year, I got to do both. I played a lot of right field, and I
came in as a two-way guy.
Came in as a two-way guy, yeah.
That's kind of rare in and of itself. Like usually people come in, like, hey, I'm going to UTSA to play short. I'm coming in to be a catcher, or like I'm a strictly pitcher.
Right.
So like, did you have full intentions of being a two-way guy, or did you prefer one or the other, or were you just like, hey, whatever works, I just want to get out there and play?
It wasn't a deal breaker. I wasn't offered by a lot of places, but it wasn't like a deal breaker if I was going to do two-way. But they were going to allow me to do both, so I was like, that kind of helped. Obviously, it's like, okay, great, I do want to keep hitting. Hitting for me was fun, and I think it still is fun to an extent. So it was definitely a what's the word I'm looking for? An opportunity to just see which one I was going to be able to progress in my career in. And
did you kind of feel like, I feel like I'm a better pitcher, but I'll give it a shot?
Yeah, no, I definitely knew I was probably a better pitcher than I was a hitter, because I was not fast at all. I was not some crazy quick twitch guy that was, going to be making the great breaks on balls. I was an average outfielder, I would say. So, but, I would say probably going into my junior year is when I knew I was really going to probably be a pitcher for the most part. And then they finally, we were talking and whatnot, and they sat me down like, we're going to just, let's just pitch. Let's focus on pitching. We're not going to worry about hitting right now. I'm like, all right, that's the plan y'all want to go with. That's the plan I can, commit to as well. So that was what we went. It was in November. We kind of sat down and had that conversation, and I was like, all right, let's do this. Because I had a little bit of scout recognition by then to be a pitcher.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like all the way. It was just like, the guy's got the size, the potential to have the stuff is there. So that's where I think their heads were too. They're like, let's get him just to focus on pitching, maybe get him to the next level. And maybe he does really well this year, has a great year, and then maybe he would come back next year and still only pitch.
Yeah, they were looking at your potential, so your development was like probably going to be crazy or detrimental to your whole overall career because like of how much potential you brought in being a two-way guy.
Right.
And so like diving back into your recruiting phase, like what made you commit to UTSA? How did you get recruited? What was that like for you in high school?
Getting recruited was wild. You know, at first it was like you got all these letters. You would get it felt like you would just get a ton every now and then it would kind of stop. And then a couple would trickle in every now and then. You're like your junior year, and even towards the early part of my senior year, I was still getting some after I was already committed and getting ready to sign in a couple months. But I would say when I didn't have a ton of offers. I had 2 like scholarship offers, UTSA and A&M Corpus Christi. A&M had offered me a walk-on position, and then there were some other JUCO opportunities that I could have pursued as well. And it really just came down to it kind of just came down to which one was going to give me the best chance to play as a freshman right away, and who was going to help me pay for my scholarship pretty much to go to school and whatnot and play. So that's what it came down to, those two. And A&M would have been great, it would have been awesome, but financially for my parents and whatnot too, it made more sense to go the route that I did.
Right.
And I look back, I don't really regret that decision at all.
It played out pretty well.
It played out really well, but I met awesome people at UTSA. I met Mitch there. We hosted him on his recruiting visit there too. So
really? Yeah. And you're 2 years older than Mitch?
Yeah, I was 2 years old. I'm 2 years older than Mitch, and he came in as a freshman my junior year. So
you hazed them and everything.
We had a good time.
Yeah,
but no, that's how it was. That's what it came down to, and the two-way part, like it did have a little bit to do with it too, and they were pretty forward thinking with it. And then I remember my senior summer, I had a pretty good senior, like going into my freshman year of college. I had hit pretty well that summer. The coaches had gotten to see me hit a few times at a couple of games that were near San Antonio and Austin and stuff. They would drive to come see. So I think they saw that potential as well, and they were like, okay, yeah, we're gonna definitely just keep letting them do both for sure.
Right. And Division I baseball is no small feat, especially in a city like Houston where it's over swarming with baseball players. So what kind of things set you apart, do you think, from other kids that were trying to get recruited at the time? Like what did you do, whether it was on the field, off the field, whether it was your talent, your skills that you developed? What did you do that separated you from the pack?
I feel like it was always just wanting to do more. It's always how can I get the extra edge? How can I keep finding this about myself? How can I get better here? So I think it was always about for me, it was always like I loved hitting in the cage. I think I still joke about like hitting the cage was sometimes just one of the most therapeutic things that I could do as a player. Oh, yeah. And 100%. I joke about stuff now like with other guys all over the place. It's as a hitter, like you can kind of just keep hitting until you want to stop. As a pitcher, it's like I can't go out here and just throw 100. I mean, I could throw 100 pitches, sure, but it's like I'm going to get way more fatigue throwing than I am hitting. It's
working hard in pitching to hitting is two different.
It's two different things, and that was one of the things that's the other thing too. You don't always need somebody to throw with, but you want somebody to throw with.
Right.
So it's like you can go hit on the tee by yourself for an hour, jam out to some music, and it's the back wall game. I'd always sit there and play back wall by myself, and I just love just hitting off the tee, just being able to backspin a baseball to the backside of the cage. That was always a lot of fun. So I think it was always that was one of the things. It was always like I could just hit and whatnot. I was like, I'm just gonna keep finding my swing, keep finding my groove, and like I had a tee and like a jugs net in the backyard too that I would always hit into as well. Yeah. I'd go out there some days and hit 2 buckets of baseballs and call it a day. So I think sometimes that's where it was. It was just I just wanted to keep finding a way to get better. Yeah. And I was left-handed. I'm a left-handed hitter too. Okay. So that probably helped me on the pitching side because I'm a right-handed thrower. So I think about like all the rotation stuff that happens. It's just they kind of equal each other out, which is nice.
Which is a very interesting point. I think I realized because I went to the University of Rhode Island and way up north. And so I think when I realized like, hey, like I want to throw harder. I wanted to be a better overall outfielder.
Yeah.
And so I started learning. I started thinking like I don't know why I didn't think of this sooner or why no one even told me this, but like I started paying attention to what the pitchers do. Because like imagine like I throw 93 from the outfield on a crow hop on a do-or-die situation, but this guy throws 94, 95 from a standstill position. So I really started embracing and trying to like dive in like, hey, why do pitchers throw the way they do? And the mechanics, at least from the bottom half to me, are very similar in hitting as far as the rotation of your hips, pushing off. It's just like the upper body is a little bit different, but also the way that you guys took care of yourselves.
Uh-huh.
And like, you know, I think you can attest to this, that kinesiology and sports science has come a long way since we were in high school.
Even since college.
Even since college, like, yeah.
It's nuts.
And so it's like, it's very, like, everything that I learned when I was a kid is completely wrong.
Yeah.
And then as an adult now, I'm like, oh, wow, if I would have did this as a kid, like, imagine how much better I was. But I think, learning that difference, that, you know, training hard between hitting and pitching are two different things.
Yes, most definitely.
And a lot of it has to do with mobility, recovery, preparation, and then working finer tuned muscles on your upper parts, right? So going into when you were in UTSA, that transition from being a two-way to straight pitcher, how did that occur for you?
So like I remember it occurred, like it was towards the back end of our fall practices and scrimmages that we were having and whatnot. So that's really where it occurred. And then I remember we did one more little small workout. They called VSI's voluntary, and I think it was just voluntary instruction is what it was. And I remember I threw like one more time just to like get another bullpen under my belt with the pitching coach. And then they're like, okay, we don't want you, you're done. Don't throw any more for you know, X amount of weeks or whatever it was. And so that's where the focus of just being a pitcher really kind of kicked in more. Mm-hmm. And then I was going through some stuff like personally off the field by myself and whatnot. And that's where I really got obsessed with I got obsessed with lifting hardcore. That, you know, that phase during that winter break of my junior year, I really honed in on lifting. I was lifting hardcore 6 days a week. Every now, like sometimes during those weeks, I was doing 2-a-days. I'd go in the morning lift, and then I'd be so bored at night, I would just go lift again. I would try to do something different, you know, no matter what it was. And it was always about, even as a pitcher, even as a young kid, and it's still even now today, it's like you want to throw hard. Oh, yeah. That's all you want to do. You just want to get up and throw gas.
It's the sexiest thing.
It is. It's the thing that gets you paid, you know. Yeah. So, and it's the thing that gets you noticed as a young kid too. It's the velocity that gets noticed right away, just because it's a way to measure. It's measured right away.
Right. Exactly.
And that's the biggest thing.
You know, it doesn't matter if you're 5'6". It doesn't matter if you're 6'8". Like, if
correct.
You can throw hard, you can throw well. Like, there's a future.
Exactly. Like you said, it doesn't matter if you're the tallest guy throwing 95 or you're the littlest guy throwing 95. However, you create the energy to get that 95 out is what people want to see.
Exactly.
And so that's one of the things that kind of drove that. It was like, how can I keep going? How can I reach this next step to keep throwing harder and harder? And for me, that's what it always was. And it was that, I will never forget, it was that junior winter break.
So
just
you falling in love in the weightlifting and training. Did you just like go about it by yourself? You started learning about it by yourself, or did you have like a trainer that you worked with, or did you look up to somebody, or how did you know what was working for you as a pitcher versus let's just pump iron?
Right. I was pretty fortunate. Like I had a pitching coach named Scipio Spinks. You know, I still lean on him to this day. He helped me a lot with like the pitching side of things, and always kind of like try to express to me the potential that I always could have and whatnot. And he always wanted to see me, like, I could tell he always wanted me to succeed first and foremost, but he always wanted me to figure out like, how can I fit into my own body? How can I fill out my own body to finally just reach that next step? And so that was like I said, one of the things I just got crazy with was I was getting into this lifting. How can I figure out how to get stronger? What are the proper movements that I need to try to be doing and whatnot? But I didn't have anybody on the strength side to do that. So I was just doing a lot of the stuff that I kind of knew and learned from UTSA that we were already doing there and whatnot. Because that's where a lot of my training and really learning about all this stuff kind of took off. It's like, I don't know all the lifts and stuff that, we were doing. I didn't know those certain names and certain movements and, why you were doing certain things. So I kind of just took a lot of that stuff and just blended it all together to some other things that I kind of knew from beforehand. Because I did CrossFit for a fall in my senior year of high school. That was a completely wild experience, but I was like, I have to do something to, get stronger just for my senior year at least. Mm-hmm. And that was what I did. And, it was great. I would never do it again. Never. Yeah. I would not. It just wasn't the move,
Yeah,
but
sure.
I took some of the things that, there's some things you can do, you can take from CrossFit and implement still in your everyday lifts or whatnot. So I was doing stuff like that too.
Okay. So honestly, that is, in my eyes, like probably one of the most ambitious ways to go about it. Like, most people, I feel like that try to get better at pitching, what do they go to? They go to like, well, in order for me to pitch harder, I need to throw harder. So let me just
100%.
practice throwing.
Yeah.
But you looked at it in a completely different avenue of like, you know what, let me just train my body so when I do my pitching regimen, I do throw harder.
Right.
And how much did like flexibility and like, you know, strengthening not only just the major muscles, but, you know, being able to be loose while putting on muscle without
definitely.
sacrificing speed, how did that play a part in it?
Didn't exist then for me, really.
Oh,
You know,
really?
I would say now we're finally, we got a balance now.
Yeah.
Back then there was no balance. It was a little bit more of just meat-headed out sometimes, and let's just lift big, hard, and strong. It's really what it was, and you know, it worked. It helped, and then I got into pro ball, and like, we had to start changing some things up. Like, you got to be more.
The difference was
you
huge.
did, because other guys were way more flexible and mobile too, and so you're like, I need to get more mobile too, no doubt. But yeah, in college, the idea that you're talking about, the flexibility and mobility, I didn't have a clue about any of that. You know, you knew you needed to have it. I didn't know how to get to it or try to even achieve it. So I would say most of like, I guess, flexibility and the mobility, that would probably come from just the arm care that I did. That would be the most of it, really, to be honest with you.
So taking what you used at UT, and now you're a full-fledged, UTSA, now that you're a full-fledged pitcher at UTSA, going in after your meathead days and you're ready and you're nice and primed, how did your career go at UTSA?
At UTSA, my junior year went really, really well. You know, I think just being able to get just foundationally stronger in that aspect, first off, was a huge step, you know. And then it kind of, everything else kind of helped itself out, because we throw it once a week. I was fortunate enough to be just every day, or every Sunday starter, I guess is how it would be. So I was throwing every 7 days. So you got a lot of time off in between too. Yeah. So I built my own routine based off of that. So I'd start on Sunday, and then I would do my best to try and go throw on Monday. If I didn't throw on Monday, I just took the whole day off. Yeah. But I always lifted on Monday. I would flush my legs on Monday hardcore. So I would go to the gym and I would lift hour and a half, just crushing my legs that day. And then Tuesday, we always had a game coming back with the off day on that Monday. So we'd have a game on Tuesday. I'd just play catch that day. And then we'd have practice the next day. We'd lift after practice. Awesome. That Thursday, depending on whether we traveled or not, like, we would get a lift in. So like, we were at home, we got another lift in, which was great. And then other times I would skip those days because we'd have to fly those days. And then once we fly, we go straight to the stadiums, and we'd go get a quick evening workout in. Yeah. So then, for example, I'd have Fridays come up, we'll, play catch everything. And then I would still get a lift in in the cages, because Friday night we play weekend series, in college, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Correct. So we had some weights and stuff in our cage, and I would just do something for like probably 15 minutes, some type of strength work, whether it be some type of lunges, squats. I'd get in some arm care and a bunch of push-ups and probably some tricep work, just to get some other type of lift in. So I would say that was the routine. I built that pretty hardcore myself junior year, and I think that helped the longevity of the season for me, to help sustain my velocity, help sustain myself, through some games, because I was fortunate enough, I threw deep in, a few games for us that season. And, I remember in particular, I threw into our conference tournament semifinal game. I threw into the ninth inning for us, and I got taken out the ninth. I'll never forget that. It was so humid. I was gassed. That was it. That was I let it all out the train, and we ended up going to the championship the next day. It was awesome. But I think building that understanding for myself to build that routine, like, I felt strong, I felt healthy doing all of that. I was like, I need to keep doing this, And it was pretty special, because there was another guy he started lifting with me on Fridays in the cage, and it was like I got somebody else to do it with me. So I wasn't alone. So I was pretty pumped up about that.
That's awesome. So what led you to getting recruited by the MLB, or what kind of pitcher were you to where they're like, hey, I see potential? What did you do, or what did you do to get noticed? Like, were you pitching a certain miles per hour, your ERA? Is it because they wanted you as like a closer, setup guy, starter? How did that occur? I
definitely think, it's the velocity that I think, honestly, a lot of it had to do. I was blessed. I have the body and the size was there. The filling out had to eventually just take place. Right. And so the velocity is what really got the notice first. And then it was like, okay, this guy has a chance to, reach even more velocity, just because there's a lot more to fill out here, right. So I think that's kind of really where it took notice. Was, okay, this guy's throwing hard. Okay, he's got an okay slider right now. We can work with that, and he has a changeup that he can show people. Those are two things that scouts want to see right away. Can you command a fastball? can you spin some type of breaking ball, and then do you have a changeup that we can work with, and you can just show hitters to show them every now and then. So I think all those things combined is what really led to me get noticed more and then get drafted, past that.
Was summer ball a big influence for you, or no, not really?
Summer ball now was the biggest joke of my life. It was not the move. Looking back on it, I did not need those at bats. I did not need those innings. I needed to go develop in the way. I needed to kind of how we're talking about now, the mobility and flexibility. I needed to figure out how to move better.
Some people think it's overkill. Like, I know for me,
it is overkill.
Like when we went to the regional and we played South Carolina, we're already 50 games deep.
Yeah,
the whole season. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as that season ends, like I remember I had to they were like, all right, you're gonna go play in the NECBL now, like go. And I was like, I need like a week.
Right.
Just to dishevel. And then, but nonetheless we leave, right? And then summer ball, it's like 30 to 40 more games.
Yep.
And then you come into the fall, and then it's like, those freshmen are hungry.
You get crushed in the fall, too.
Get crushed in the fall, well, yeah. And it's like my body, physically can't take it. Like,
right.
and I was a center fielder. So, even then, I remember my arm feeling like just dead all
just
the time.
Doo-doo, yeah.
I would consistently, I could throw hard from the outfield, but over summer ball, I felt like the weakest I've ever.
Yeah, that's so relatable. It's just looking back now, if you weren't on Team USA or you didn't go to the Cape, you wasted your time. And there's a lot of people who would probably say a bunch of nonsense. Oh, you need the at bats. You need the innings.
And if you redshirted.
Maybe there are people who didn't need the at bats. But I would say the majority of us, if you're playing a lot and you're throwing all the time, you don't need that. Yeah. You need the break, because those 2 months you can get so much better physically
and mentally.
By taking the break and just training.
You're gonna go hard in the fall. You can play other teams, especially nowadays.
Yeah,
you can play other colleges in the fall.
Definitely,
you're playing. We hear people from McLennan playing OU. You got UConn playing Rhode Island. You have teams playing now.
Definitely.
So it's showing out, and then everyone still has scout day.
Yeah.
On top of that, I remember coming in my last year, and I was like, man, we got scout day, and I was like, I'm coming off of 75 games, 8 a.m. classes,
100%.
I'm drained, and I gotta be ready to see these 24 MLB scouts,
100%,
and I gotta act like I just walked in on the glorious day, again,
right? And
my body's breaking down.
Yeah, no, and I tell people that now. It's what was the biggest transition from college to pro? I was like, I got time off. That's what it was. I got to finally just work out and train and not have to worry about going through getting drilled at practice to do this or that. I didn't have to stand around and shag for the hitters that don't watch me play catch,
Right, exactly.
So it was things like that. It was I have time now. I can just focus on training. I can actually focus on throwing. I can actually focus on certain throwing mechanics or whatnot. And you take more time. You definitely take way more time to prep in your body and your shoulder then too. So it's it is a little bit more so in college too, because they have to try to listen to compliance and all that jazz. Right. And we all know that stuff doesn't really exist. Let's just be honest. So,
for sure.
But that's what one of the biggest differences was. And you were just saying it too. It's you get that break, you get that mental break, and it's you finally can transition to become the player you need to be.
Right. Even during the week, I remember Monday's our day off usually.
Yeah.
So Tuesday playing a weekday game, Wednesday weekday game, Thursday travel or practice for someone to come in, right?
Yep.
And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3-game series. I remember that Monday, I didn't want to see a touch a baseball. I didn't want to see a teammate, even though I lived with them. I just needed that break to be I need a reset. Because Tuesday back, I got to hit it hard just as much. And we're competing every day.
Every day.
And it can be a grind. It was grueling. But I loved it. But yeah, you still need that mental break.
100%. You have to have it.
Right. So going into your MLB draft day, what was that like? What was that experience for you?
Man, the draft and draft day was wild. Leading up to the draft the week of, you get more phone calls just to clarify, to make sure this is what you're gonna take.
Right.
Money here. Yeah. You give me this. I'm gone. You don't
Were you nervous?
I was nervous. I was nervous by the third day because I talked to 2 scouts, and one told me I got turned in as a 7th rounder, And then the other one told me I got turned in as a 8th to 12th rounder. So like the 12th still, that was the third day, but it was like, all right, maybe 8, 9, 10 are still there too. Knew for sure first day wasn't happening, so I knew second day back in, that's possible. And all that went down and it didn't happen. I'm like, well, damn, now what's going on,
Right.
And so pretty early on the third day, because by the third day rolls around, they're starting to roll picks out. It probably took 30 seconds, less than a minute usually, to start getting these picks in. So sure enough, my phone starts buzzing like crazy. I didn't even know I got drafted yet. My people that are texting me and calling me, telling me I'm the one that got drafted and congratulating me and everything. And it's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Because I honestly, I wasn't listening anymore. I quit listening to it. I was with my girlfriend, who's my wife now at the time. I was over at her house, and I was like, let's just get out. And so I don't even remember what we were going to go do that day. But I remember I was like getting ready and we're getting out. And the next thing I know, I finally get the call from the Angel Scout that drafted me. Hey, we just took you, in the 14th round. Congratulations, yada, yada, yada. I'll talk to you in a little bit later. We'll get the, paperwork set up and I'll meet you at your house and we'll sign it. I'm like, all right, cool. So then the rest of that day, at my girlfriend's house, we let her parents know and everything. We go immediately to Lids, and she lived in Tascasita, went to Lids.
Okay.
So we went there and bought a couple Angels hats and whatnot. And then it was funny, the guy joked. He's like, oh man, a couple Angels hats, nice. He goes, man, you ought to have seen here the other day. Guy came in here and bought all the Miami Marlins hats that were there. And I started laughing. I knew right away what he was talking about.
Yeah.
And I just played it dumb and whatnot, but it was for Tyler Kolek, who was the second overall pick that year out of Texas.
We play. Me and Tyler played on the Houston Heat.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
As soon as you said Marlins, I was like, yeah, that's Tyler.
That's funny. Yeah, Tyler's a cool dude. Tyler's awesome.
Yeah, Tyler's great.
But that's who it was for him, and I kind of I remember that. I thought that was kind of funny and whatnot. So that day, then we go over to my parents' house, celebrate with them. I can't remember. We probably went out to eat that night as a group and had a good time. And then a few days later, Angel Scout came over to the house, signed my contract, and a couple more days, boom,
gone.
That's
right?
it. You're gone right away.
How was that? So how was going through that system, that minor league system? I know it's a grind. It's grueling.
It is, and it's I love talking to people about it now because I've been on both sides of it, and it's even crazier because I want to, you hear guys who are in the 80s, 90s, and 70s. Lord, you hear the stuff that they went through. It's even crazier. But I mean, for us, it was like, I was just telling a guy I work out with the other day, it was like, get to pro ball, you go through all these physicals and whatnot, you meet people from, all over the country that just got drafted as well. You're meeting guys that have been in extended spring training for 2 months already too. Their season's really already started. I mean, after spring training, you go to extended, that's kind of a start to a season too. You're just, it's way more controlled is all, and super limited on innings and at bats and stuff like that with things. So you're meeting up with all these people, and you're also meeting up with different teammates from around the world now too. You're meeting with some Venezuelans, Puerto Ricans, and Dominicans now. So then it's like you learn the new language too that comes with it, and then you get into it. And my first thing you wake up is like our first 4 games were on the road, Idaho Falls in Idaho. So you take a bus, we go up there. I don't even remember much about the hotel, but like I said, I was telling the guy that I work out with the other day. I remember that a visiting clubhouse so vividly. It was just concrete floor, metal lockers, and then our spread, like our pregame and kind of our post BP, it was literally just peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, maybe some ham if we had ham and turkey, and then you had apples and bananas if you were lucky. And I don't eat peanut butter. I still don't. It's just not my thing. I don't really mess around with PB&J, so I was eating white bread and bananas and probably some type of fruit snacks before games most of the time, and then post game, whatever they had for the most part, or you had to go find food. That's how that was.
How big does diet play a role for you?
Now it plays a huge role. It's a huge role, and I still think I eat better in the off season than I do in the season.
Oh, really? Wow.
I do, and then even though the food in the big leagues, it's some of the best food that you'll ever get, made by great chefs and everything. I'll still just eat better in the off season personally. It's just how it is. I don't know why it is that way, but I feel like sometimes for me in season, it's more so to keep weight up. Right. That's what it is. You don't want to lose weight. You hear guys all the time talk about losing weight. I'm like, how the hell do y'all lose weight, man? I don't get it. I'm like, I'm over here eating everything. I feel like, and I'm able to keep it on sometimes, but I don't know, sometimes maybe it's just a bunch of water weight too, because I pound a bunch of water in the season. So I think maybe that's a factor for it sometimes as well.
Do you think like your off-season diet, like that helps you train and build you up so that you retain it longer during the season? Like as far as like...
No, I actually weigh less in the off season than I do during season.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I genuinely feel better in the off season, like weight wise, than I do most of the time in season. But I know in season, you build up the tolerance and whatnot to it.
Right.
But in season, I try to walk around like anywhere from, if I'm walking around 225 plus going into the game, I'm pumped, I'm happy. I'm walking to a game 227, 228, I'm ready to roll. Like I feel like my body knows how to fire on all cylinders when I'm in that weight range for sure.
Oh wow, okay. So explain to us how your minor league season went while you were in the Angels organization.
So when I first got drafted, it started off pretty high, and then you get hit in the face, and you're like, all right, regather. Had a couple regathers, and it was like da 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 da, and it was one of those, and then it eventually just collapsed. And I got sit down the last 2 weeks of the season, my first year I drafted, and it was like, dang, this really stinks. You were in Orem, it was a lot of fun. You'd already kind of made some new friends and stuff there, and then you go to Arizona where, dude, it was still so hot there in September and whatnot, and those last 2 weeks. So I remember I got 2 more starts there. It was fine. I didn't do anything great. I was still capped on innings because I only threw like 78, 79 my junior year.
Right.
So they were still like wanting to cap innings, so I was only throwing 3 innings at a time. And like I said, one game was better than the other. I do remember that. They just still weren't like, oh, all right, cool. You kind of figured something out there. So you do that, and then you go to Instructs a few weeks after that. And so I go to Instructs where I think Instructs back then, they're way better now than they were. But then it was more so it was more reps. It was more so you're gonna pitch twice this week, maybe 3 times. We'll just really cut the innings, but you're gonna get a couple more innings in you a week, or you're gonna get a couple more at bats a day. Really is what some for the hitters and stuff was.
Oh wow!
But you go to that, and it was more development too. How can we teach these guys kind of what pro baseball is all about a little bit? And I think Instructs is still a really good, I guess, development part of our baseball still.
So were they like actually teaching you new stuff, or were they like guiding you, or were they kind of just trying to like emphasize like, hey, we think you need to work on this, therefore we're giving you the freedom and the range to work on this? Or
that was all really good. Yeah, it's kind of a little bit of both. Like I remember they brought it, like I had never done yoga. They brought in someone for yoga to it's like they try to introduce some things to you to give you some type of some type of sheet to go off of, right? Okay. And so kind of get into things that way, and then like, okay, let's work on a changeup. We're going to really work on the changeup. So I remember there were certain times. I think if we got ahead 0-1, I think is when it was, or when we were 1-1, we had to throw a changeup, I believe is what it was, to force yourself to throw it for a strike, to really teach it. Because a lot of us, we could already spin a breaking ball, whether you had a curveball or you had a slider. You could already kind of do that. But not everyone has a changeup, and still to this day, not everyone has great changeups, but it's slower than their fastballs, so it still plays into their arsenals. But I remember very vividly, if you went 1-1 or 0-1, it's like, you got to throw a changeup, and we got to throw it for a strike. And then there were certain scenarios too where it was like, okay, if we do this, you have to throw fastballs inside,
Yeah.
And that was one of the big things, was pitching inside. I'll never forget from Instructs, it was like pitch inside, pitch inside, pitch inside. They drilled us with the Angels with that. And going into 2015, it was the exact same way. How can you effectively pitch inside, to keep guys off balance, to keep them honest, and let them know like you're not scared to go inside.
Right.
Because that still is a thing for some people. It's like they're too scared to go inside to hit somebody. It's like, I mean, we're all scared to get hit, Yeah. I don't want to get hit when I'm pitching. I've been hit a few times. It sucks. Yeah, for sure. So, and it hurts a lot more coming off the bat than usually it does when somebody's throwing shit. So, I think that's where a lot of it gets caught up with guys, So that I'll never forget that those 2 things were big things that tried to drive home with us.
And then what do you think you did, or what did you have that separated you from the other minor leaguers? Because you eventually got called up.
Right.
So, like, what separated you that had you keep going, advancing? Was it, like, I've heard from some pro guys, like, hey, it was just timing. I don't think there was anything different between me and him, and I just had a good day. He had a bad day.
Right, yeah.
That guy was watching.
That's a real scenario, too.
Yeah,
For me, I believe it was a little bit of both a little bit of the work that I always wanted to put in, and time. It is getting called up to the big leagues. It's timing and luck. You can have all the skill and the skills and the talents. Those will for sure get you there.
Yeah.
But there has to be a timing, and sometimes there's a little bit of luck with it. And I remember going into the year that I got called up, I redid all my mechanics completely that off season. I went up to Oklahoma. Yeah. It kind of was a little bit, but I kind of caught on to it pretty quick. Okay. And so I had gone to Oklahoma with my agent, stayed with him and his family for a few days, and we would just go to the local high school there that his son goes to, and we just worked on a few things. I was there for 3 days and flew home and took those things that we kind of redid, and we went. And that was really the thing that kind of drove home everything. Because then I remember that year, I went into what was called a mini camp. I was a reliever already at this time. So I went into what was called like a mini camp. And I sat down with our pitcher coordinator and I guess director of like player development, personnel assistant or something like that. I remember he was a really good guy and kind of sat me down and, hey, your slider, you kind of generate more swing and miss with your slider. We're going to want you to throw your slider more. All right, cool. We want you to throw it 70% of the time. Whoa. I'm like, all right. So it took off that spring, and then they're like, okay, we're going to throw 2 seams to righties only and 4 seams to lefties. That's what you're going to do. I'm like, all right, cool. That seems pretty easy. Mm-hmm. I was already throwing, by that time I was a full-time reliever, I was already throwing, mid-90s by then. So these 2 things hopefully, maybe makes my fastball play better. I didn't know that at the time.
Right.
So I do that, and I'm starting to back up, some of the big league games, because what they'll do is we'll call us in early like that, and you'll be called a JIC, which is a just-in-case guy. So basically what that means, if a guy reaches his pitch count limit in the inning and they don't want to go past it, they'll just bring one of us in, right, clean up the inning, get 1, 2 outs, whatever. So that way the next guy that's fighting for a job in spring training, right, gets a fair count, fair inning, everything. So I did a lot of that, and then every now and then they run through those guys pretty quickly, or sometimes the pitch counts they get piled up pretty fast early on in the game, and you'll end up getting a whole inning to yourself. So there were quite a few instances that spring where I got a whole inning to myself, a lot.
Oh wow!
And I'll never forget that spring training specifically. And I took note of this because every time we got to go back up a game, you got paid. You got $100. So you're tracking. So I backed up 22 games that spring training. So I'm in my head, I'm like, I got 2,200, dog. Like, yeah. I felt rich.
Rich, yeah.
And then
that money.
I had thrown in 13 of them. So basically all of my spring training games, that spring training came from throwing in big league spring training games that they had called me up to. And it got to a point where I found out that they were specifically scheduling me 2 backup games, but not just to backup. Like, I was scheduled to throw. Yeah. I was going to throw. So I remember going through all that, and then I think I threw in one more spring training, like minor league spring training game at the end of the year, right before we all broke camp for minor leagues and whatnot. And then we'll go on to AA that year. And that was my first time starting in AA that year. I had got called up to AA later, or the year before that,
so
but I was starting.
You went back to a starter?
No, I'm saying I went back to AA to start the season. Okay. The year before that, I had started in high A and then got called up to AA.
I see. Okay.
So go to AA that year and pitching. I think I threw in 3 games. I was throwing really hard then, throwing the slider a ton because that's what they wanted me to do, right? So I'm just cranking out sliders now.
Are you calling your pitches, or they know, like the catcher knows that, like, hey, this guy's going to throw a mostly slider guy?
Yeah, they know. That communication was made pretty well. I would say 2017 and 18, the shift in dynamics of pitch calling and, I would say more so the pitching coaches have an understanding of telling the catchers, like, this is what this guy's really good at, this is what we need to focus on. Okay. That's when I started noticing all that stuff started changing. And 18 definitely, even the minor league catchers we had, they were like, Anderson's hardcore slider right now, we're going to throw that in and we're going to mix in the fastball when he's got it.
Yeah, okay.
So by the time I was throwing slider, oh, here's a fastball, slider. And then I got called up, I'll never forget, we were in Jacksonville. I go to the dugout, and the bullpen's there on the field, so I go into the dugout real quick after our half of the inning we pitched, and I go to the bathroom, come back, manager calls me over, and by that time, we're already back on the field on defense and stuff, and he kind of sits me down and we start chatting. He's like, hey, you're going to Salt Lake after this game, and he starts telling me about all this other stuff, like, if you just keep doing what I've seen you do for these past 3 games, I will definitely never see you again type of stuff. You're going to be on the path to success. And sure enough, went to Salt Lake, threw in 3 more games. The exact same scenario happened, and then I got called up from there, and then made my debut.
Very short turnover.
It was very quick. I think I pitched in 2 games at home at the start of the season in AA, and then it was 1 game in Jacksonville, and then flew from Jacksonville to Albuquerque, met the AAA team there, threw 1 game there, threw in 2 games in Salt Lake City when we got home for our series, and after that I wasn't even in Salt Lake for 7 days, and I got called up.
So when you got called up, how was that feeling? Was it surreal? Like you're like, I finally made it, or was it like, hey, this is just a starting line? Like now I got to get even more serious, or how are you feeling in them?
I would say I probably didn't take it as serious still, because you're still just so taken back by everything.
The kid in you is still probably
you're like, what's going on still? This is all new and it's nuts. And like I wasn't in big league camp, so when you go into big league camp, that's where you really get a taste of some of the stuff, and you can really see how guys handle things, and I didn't have that. So I came straight in, kind of just doing things that I've always done, which, that's kind of helped lead me to where I've been now. But it was like, I probably didn't take things as serious then as I should have, and as I do now. But it was definitely, like you said, it was like the little kid, and you was still just going, and like, all right, like they said, I'm pitching.
Yep, that 4-year-old that when dad was like, you want to go play baseball? I was like, yep, this is it.
Sure thing, And it's like, all right, Anderson, get hot. Okay, get hot. And I didn't get to sit down at all that year, which is amazing. That was awesome. But it was one of those things that was never even a thought in my mind if I could get sent down. I was just like, all right, I'm here, I'm pitching, let's go.
Right, exactly. So when it comes to you being like a reliever, right? Because you've been a starter for majority of your life.
I was, yeah.
And then I'm assuming in the minor leagues they told you, hey, you're going to be a reliever now.
Yeah.
How was that transition? Like going from mentally having a routine, like I'm a starter, I pitch every day of the week. My whole career is probably built on my routine and my consistency. 100%. Now a reliever, I can go in at any time. How hard was that mentally to make that change, that dynamic?
It was very easy, actually. Making that mental change to go from starter to reliever was already very easy, because I was pretty gung-ho as a starter. There was no – people always talked about taking pitches off. It's like you can't take a pitch off.
Full
you have to go full force.
Yeah.
And I still don't know a lot of people who kind of do that. Everyone now it's you got to go, or you're going to get dropped, bro. Yeah. So there's every now and then you watch guys who are like that as starters. It's like they can just cruise. Ohtani's an example. He's also an anomaly, because he can cruise for 95 for a few innings, and it's like all of a sudden 101's in the back pocket in the 6th inning, and you're like, what? Where was this? Where was this in the 3rd? And I would say another guy would be like watch Verlander or Cole. Both of those guys are kind of the same. They're in that cruise control mode.
Hotter. It's weird.
Yes, and that's the thing with starters. I was that same way. You get going in some of these games, especially you hit that 6th or 7th inning, and you're there by yourself. That the adrenaline and the velo takes over by itself, and you get that second win, and it's like I can just keep going. So doing all that and then going into the bullpen kind of already helped me, because now I'm in the bullpen. Yeah. Now I'm probably throwing max 2 innings, if that.
Just let
it loose even more so now. So that transition was actually not as bad as some people kind of like wonder about. I would say maybe going the other way would probably be a little bit harder transition. I don't know. Obviously, I haven't had.
What about the physicality aspect? Like instead of you now I just threw as hard as I could for 2 innings, I get called back like 2 days later or like the next day.
That's a great question. So I would say then in the minor leagues it's a little less, because it's more controlled. Okay. They're way more controlled. They're monitoring your innings. Everyone has an innings threshold they want to get you to for the season, right? Mm-hmm. So they can control it with the 2 innings, the 1 innings, the 1 day off, the 2, 3, 4 days off, whatever it may be. So in the minor leagues, you throw 2 innings, you're probably for sure getting 2 days off, 2 days rest off, kind of thing. If you threw, sometimes there would be times every now and then, if we were maybe a little thin in the bullpen with some guys, or some guy was maybe really, really hanging, you threw 2 innings, you for sure had the next day off, no question, you weren't pitching at all. Okay. That next day, pitch coach might ask if you can throw for 1 inning to kind of help us out. And there were instances where that would happen. I would definitely say that wasn't as
but it's not like going in blind, like.
Oh yeah,
because I know in college, like sometimes they'll be like, "Hey, you just pitched yesterday. I need you to get going again."
Yeah,
like, you're our guy.
Right? No, definitely not. But then, more so once you get to the big leagues, you're there every day.
Whatever you need.
You need the physicality like you're talking about. Definitely, that's where it really takes over. It's like you have to figure out your routine. You got to figure out what you need to get done that day. You need to figure out what part of your body needs some attention, and then you got to find a way to be ready to go at 8:45, 9 o'clock. That's pretty much what it comes down to. It's, we always make the joke. It's always a joke. It's like, I'll be ready for you at, 9 o'clock when you need me. That's what it is. It's like like playing catch and stuff. They'll ask you, how you feel. It's like, I'll be ready to go. I'm good. I'll find a way type of stuff. So, and that's the other thing too. It's kind of like you're all in it together too, especially in the bullpen. So it's like, if certain guys are hurting or hanging a little bit, and they're feeling it, you're like, I can muster it today. I got it, type of thing.
So one question I want to ask is in the minor leagues, everyone's competing to move up, right? Whether that's against the other team, whether that's within your own teammates. At the MLB, is it more of like a team together? Like, here, now we're all in this together. It's still kind of very individualized.
It's a little bit of both. Because your individual success is ultimately what drives your career. Right. Your team success drives, I would say, the camaraderie and the memories and stuff. I had a lot of fun with the group of guys we had last year. Don't get me wrong, it did not go pretty at all. But us in there in the clubhouse, we were pretty cohesive. We had a lot of fun with each other and whatnot. It wasn't like we all knew we were going through it together, Right. And that's the side with the bullpen where, not just that bullpen last year, I'm talking every bullpen though now. It's like, you're not even a part. There's times where it doesn't feel like you're not even a part of the team sometimes, because we're out there in the outfield or off to the side or whatever. Right. And there was no joke. There's days sometimes where I might not see a guy until I pitch that night and I see him in the dugout. You just don't, your schedules are we're all over the place sometimes, and sometimes you don't really overlap each other throughout the day. It's weird. Wow. But I'm not kidding when I say there would be some days where you just wouldn't see somebody until you were in the dugout. So when we say the bullpen guys, we're pretty cohesive down there, because we're not playing every day, but we're throwing every day and whatnot, and we all know when it's our time to go out there and pitch, we take a lot of pride in each other. Of bullpen did that, we did that. Right. So I would say there's times where we kind of have we have that attitude about us, and sometimes we always make jokes about relievers and starters and whatnot. It's always fun to poke at each other like that. So I'd say sometimes we hold competitions with one another that way too, so it's a lot of fun.
So it's kind of competitive.
It is, yeah.
In and of itself, yeah. I think that's awesome. So now that you're in off season, you're coming off your guys' last season with the White Sox. How important is the off season for you? Not only from a wrestling perspective and family time, that's obviously the most important aspect
for
of
sure.
it. But now that it's January, you're getting ready for spring. What are you doing to start preparing for that so that you have another successful season?
Right. So I just started throwing bullpens. I just threw my first bullpen yesterday, so that's always checkbox one. Yeah. Threw a bullpen, felt good, felt healthy. Boom. All right, that's awesome. But before that, what I do is I probably get on the mound 4 times before that, before I throw a full bullpen of 20 pitches. I'll throw 7 to 10 off the mound twice a week, just so I can I'm starting to feel the slope again. Right. So that way, when I do throw that first bullpen, or when I'm in that 5th bullpen, I'm not searching for timing and whatnot. Where'd the timing go? Where's it at right now? It's more so you've already got a few of those reps under your belt off the mound. It's it's there. It's a couple pitches here, and next boom, there's the adjustment. There's the next one, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm building into the phase of my training and whatnot, where you get more into plyometrics. You get into a lot more power rotational stuff. So that way, it's prepping you for on your mound, and then also strengthening afterwards and whatnot. So I would say that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Okay, nice. And so how long do you keep doing that? And you leave in a couple weeks, right?
Yeah, I leave in probably about 4 weeks.
So are you just going to keep that routine going until you go there, or do you pick it up week by week? Are you kind of getting more intense as you get to spring training, or no, we hit spring training full force, I'm just going to
right. My way through? No, I'll definitely keep the intensity all the way through spring training, and I honestly try to keep the intensity in the weight room the same throughout the season, just because throwing every day, that's intensity enough, pitching in the game's enough intensity. So I try to mimic it as much as I can in the weight room and whatnot. A rule I try to live by myself in the weight room. I don't want to sit down in the weight room. I hate sitting down in the weight room. It's something I do not want to do, because when you're out there on the mound, you can throw 4 pitches. Next thing you know, you got runners on first and second, no outs, and you got the 3-hole hitter at the plate, and you got to figure a way to not get them out. You got to strike them out or get a double play ball.
Yeah,
and there's no time to sit down and hee ha ha and grab water.
Right.
You don't grab water on the mound. You don't have a choice. So that's another thing I try to do. It's like I try not to drink a ton of water while I'm lifting because I'm like, I can't do that when I'm on the mound. I don't have time for that.
Call time, yeah.
You know, you can't just call
Water
time.
break.
Yeah. So like you kind of hydrate enough a little bit before in the bullpen, and you take a couple sips while you're out there throwing and whatnot, getting ready. But you know, it's kind of one of the things I focus on in my training. It's I don't have time to sit down. You know, I don't have time to sit down when I'm out there. So I would say I keep it gung ho like that. And then last year I started. I'm going to do it again this year. Last year in May, I started doing microdose lifts, and I fell in love with it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Dive into that.
So a microdose lift, from how it was explained to me, was, you know, it's a lift anywhere from 10, 15, 20 minutes tops. If I go past 20 minutes, that's a lot.
Okay.
I'm getting in, I'm getting out. So it's like I'm doing, you know, probably 4 to 5 exercises generally. There's usually one that's the strength component, and then the rest of them are like auxiliaries to kind of keep you strong and keep you primed for that night and for, you know, throughout the season. So I'm probably getting anywhere from 4 to 6 lifts in a week sometimes.
This is after a game or after a practice?
This is before a game. This is all before. So I'll get a lift in before games and whatnot.
Okay. And
yeah.
then is it like your regular routine, like on a very small, like we're doing like one set, X amount of reps, or is it just like are we targeting just certain aspects of the groups, or is it like full body?
Oh, I'm always hitting total when I do those, no matter what the day is.
Okay.
Yeah, there's sometimes I would say they're within the workouts because my strength coach helps me build it and whatnot. And I would say there are certain days where it is more so upper body dominant, and maybe it is a little more lower body dominant, but there's still the lower body movement and the upper body movement are always together in there for sure. Because I always want to make it a total. I don't want to always have them separated in this sense.
Yeah.
So then, especially, you know, like if you throw back to back in the big leagues, like for us right now, like we had that next day off kind of. We weren't really going 3 days in a row, so we kind of knew we were like off that day. So I wouldn't lift those days. I would kind of just use those as full recovery days. Let me get right for that next day, because now you're going to go 3 out of 4,
right? And
then you might have to go 4 out of 6, you know, stuff like that. So there are certain days where even I would, like a scenario where I was 3 out of 4, I was maybe have to go 4 out of 6. I would bang one of the lifts completely and be like, I need to be ready to go tonight. Let me just make sure I can move well, stay prepped, stay ready to go, and then, you know, get with the trainer or, you know, do some contrast and whatnot, get everything feeling better.
So it's not like the coaching staff or other people make schedules for you. Like they have certain things for you to do, and you wiggle your schedule around it to achieve whatever you need to do. So you're good.
Yeah, I would say that's one of the best things. It's everything. The communication's the biggest thing. Communication's the biggest thing in life, probably. Yeah. One of the biggest things in life, period, you know. And especially in, you know, business, any professional sport, it's huge. So for us, being able to communicate with like my strength coach, being able to tell them, you know, this is what I feel like this is what I'm gonna need today. This is what I'm gonna do. And, you know, if it's the complete opposite of what, you know, it's already on my plan, right, we'll sit there and restructure it real quick, and it'll take us 5 minutes. We'll restructure it, and I'll do this and that instead, and it's awesome. So I would say us having it's always about, because it is your career at the end of the day. Right. That's a funny joke that's used in pro ball all the time. It's like, your career, dude, do whatever the hell you want, really, you know? Yeah. So you got to build sometimes you have to kind of build your own program like that, but, you know, I've never had an issue with anybody, you know, wanting to help us anyway, because they're everyone I've worked with, they're wanting to help, and how can I build this for you and get better?
Environment, yeah. And so when you're going into your off season, do you train by yourself? Do you train at home? Do you have a place that you go to, or is there a place that, you know, you can find other big leaguers or your catcher, or do you only operate with certain people? Right.
No, I definitely do only operate with certain people. You know, I've been fortunate enough the place I work out at now, I've been fortunate enough, I've been going there since I was 18 years old. So what's that? 14. I've been going there for 14 years now, right? So I know both the trainers there very well. They've both been two of some of the, you know, greatest people to me, for me, my family, you know, in my career, no matter what, just on a personal level and on a training aspect too. I've learned a ton from both of them. So credit to them for always being there for me and helping me out. You know, we were in some binds in 23 that they helped me out with, and, you know, it all worked. It's slowly all worked itself out. So I joke with them. I'm not going anywhere. I won't go anywhere else. Right. That's just kind of what I want to do. And then
Do they come out to see you sometimes when you're on the road? Because it's not like
Right.
you only see them here, or they go out?
No, I only see them here
Okay.
because I mean they're running their own thing too.
Oh, so it's like okay, I see what you're saying.
They're running their own thing too. They got they work with a bunch of high school kids too and college kids too that they have full programs in the summer and stuff too that they're rolling through. So they're doing that, and then when we come to Houston, they'll try to make a stop and come watch a game real quick or whatever, and I'll try to go see them real quick.
Absolutely.
So especially like the All-Star break, past every time I'll come home. I'll come in. I'll get like 1 or 2 lifts in, and then I'll throw both like 2 days so I'm still moving and whatnot. Don't want to get stiff from all that. So, and they're always welcoming. Like, oh yeah, come on in. No big deal. I'll let you know when I'll be there. And it's like, all right,
to
awesome.
them, it's just Justin's here.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Like, all right, Justin's going to come in today. He'll come in tomorrow too. It's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I kind of don't really interfere with their work because I'm coming in the morning. Most of their stuff was in the afternoon with the high school kids and college kids and whatnot.
Oh, yeah,
so that's it.
So when or actually, what's the difference now going into spring training now that you're not in the minor league system? Is it comforting? Is it a little bit more, actually it's a little bit more intense because we're trying to see where we fit? Or is it like, no, I'm top dog, like now that I'm here, like what's the difference like for you?
Definitely more comforting because there's a lot of different things between minor league camp and then big league camp. And I would say as a younger guy, especially when I was like on minor league side, and like minor leagues with the Angels, minor league camp there, and then you go see big league compared to big league camp. My first big league camp in 2019, it's just stuff. There's stuff in your locker when you get there. When I first get to minor league camp, I'll never forget with the Angels. You got a pair of shorts, you got like 2 undershirt dry fits, a short sleeve and a long sleeve, and then you got like a dry fit workout shirt. And 2 pairs of socks. You got like game socks that wore up hot, like pull up, and then you got some like ankle socks. That was it, man. So it was it, 2 pairs. So yeah,
it's gotta last you the whole season.
Right? You joke about that to yourself. It's like, man, it's gonna last me all the whole season. But you need the other pair of socks. Go get another pair of socks. Not a big deal, stuff like that. Or you got holes in your shorts, but it's like you can't be going and asking for an extra pair of shorts. You can't be going and asking for an extra shirt or whatnot. So I'll never forget my very first off season. I texted the guy in Arizona. I was like, hey, if you got any leftover hoodies, can you like set a hoodie aside for me? I'm like, I don't care what size, just large or bigger, just throw me a hoodie. Yeah. And I get a text not too long after. He's like, hey, I got you one. I'll put it off to the side for you. It was a 2X. I'll never forget, that thing swallowed me. Like I couldn't wear a 2X, and I still can't wear a 2X. It swallows me. And I had this big old hoodie, but I was like, man, I got a hoodie, or at least I'm pumped about this hoodie. And it was a hand-me-down hoodie from the spring training before. Because what they'll do is at the end of spring training, if there's stuff that guys don't want, there's boxes and boxes everywhere, and guys just throw stuff in boxes, and all that trickles down to the minor leagues. So that was one of the things for me that I noticed right away. It's stuff. You get a lot more stuff. So that is a little more comforting. There's way more. It's so silly, but there's just way more options to choose from. You have a couple pairs of shorts. Maybe your team invests in, like, you get a pair of like type of like sweats or pants too to rock around. It's kind of cool. So that's one of the things. And there is way more trainers, way more strength coaches. So you have way more access to more people to talk to and learn from. So that's a huge bonus too. Because like if you're a young guy coming to big league camp and it's your first one ever,
right?
Like your chance, you should just be the sponge, absorb as much information as you can from the guy that's got 15 years in the big leagues to the trainer that's got 15 years in the big leagues as well, or some trainer that just got hired on. Maybe you can still learn, you can learn from him as well, or her from as well, because I would say that's one of the best things. There's just way more access to people, way more access to information, because in the minor leagues, you might not have a nutritionist. Right. When the Angels, when I first got drafted, we didn't have a minor league nutritionist. She was the big league one. She came over, talked to us once in spring. That was it. Never saw you again.
Yeah.
So, and that's just how it was. And now I would say most teams have anywhere from 2 to 4, 2 to 3 nutritionists, covering the big leagues and then covering the minor leagues too. So that's the the comfortability you're talking about walking into spring. You have way more access to information and other people to learn from.
That's gotta be unreal. How are we doing on time, Mitch? 5 minutes. Okay, I'm asking one more question.
All right, you're good. Go ahead.
Because I know we all got places, we all got things we got to do.
Good.
But when it comes to like you said, like having the older guys talk to the younger guys, did you have a role model when you got to the bigs, or did you have someone that kind of took you under your wing that guided you, or were you like a pioneer, like this is my way, I'm different than anybody here. Everybody's kind of different, so we're all trying to find our way? Or did you have someone that you could like lean on for guidance?
I definitely had someone I could lean on. I was fortunate, man. I tell people to this day too, the clubhouse that I came into when I was 25 years old, I was 25, you still don't know nothing about nothing.
Yeah.
I came into a clubhouse with Mike Trout, Albert Pujols, Zach Cozart, Cole Calhoun, Justin Upton, and Charlton Simmons.
Oh, wow.
Martin Maldonado.
Stacked place to go into.
And Jim Johnson, who was a 10-year vet. Cam Bedrosian, Blake Parker, Noe Ramirez, like Andrew Heaney, Tyler Skaggs, Garrett. Like I came in with some pretty notable names,
Yeah, for sure.
And Jim was one of the older guys, and he was coming into his 10 years of service that year. So he kind of took me under his wing. Jim was really good to me that year. Helped me out a lot. I was pretty fortunate. I didn't really get checked a lot. I was a guy that was kind of quiet and made sure I did the rookie things that I knew already that I was supposed to do and whatnot. And the times they had to check me, it wasn't even anything. It was some of the minorest things too, and it was great. And they were really professional about it, which was awesome. But you have guys like that around you just to listen from, watch them play, watch them prep. Like I look back and watch how like Jim prepped. Jim prepped every day the same way, pretty much. He always made sure he found a way to get his body hot and whatnot. And a guy was 35 years old, still lifting.
Yeah.
And there were 30-year-olds in there that made plenty of money that I didn't always see them lift. To be honest with you, I joke with people today, like Ian Kinsler told him. Ian Kinsler was another one that was in there. We were talking one day about something. He's like, dude, I'm to the point where I need to make sure I feel good every day. He wasn't a guy that lifted, but he was still prepping everything to make sure he got his body right to go play that night.
Right.
But that's what he said. He was like, I need to make sure I can just play today and feel good to move. So I want to feel good. So
he'll do whatever he needs.
So he'll do what he needed to do. Yeah. So Jim was just bouncing back, talking about Jim. Jim was awesome. Jim bought me a custom suit, got measured to me and everything. That was pretty special. Yeah. And he took us to a team dinner one time. That was awesome. And then I'll never forget, we're in New York, and me and Jaime Barrias was a 21-year-old kid from Panama at the time. Unbelievable talent. I'm not sure where he is now, but great pitcher at that time. Kind of got messed with a little bit. And it's after the Yankees game, we're undressing and whatnot, and Albert comes over to me and he goes, hey, what time you wake up? I'm like, 9:30, 9:10, whatever. He goes, okay, meet me in the lobby tomorrow at 10:30. We're going to go get some suits and stuff. And I'm like, all right. So I know what suits are, but then now I'm like, what is stuff? What's stuff?
What else are we doing?
So then I'm thinking this whole time, I'm like, is there something else going on? Like, what is it? So we meet him in the lobby at 10:30, me and Jaime down there together. We hop in with his driver and whatnot. We go get fitted for his place called Portobello's. It's a suit company called Super Joe's, thinking about Super Joe's. And this guy's got legends after legends after legends that have come through his place. Whoa. It looks like it's in New York too, so it kind of looks like a little hole-in-the-wall joint almost, a little hole-in-the-wall suit place. And Albert goes in, we walk in there, he daps up Joe. They've known each other for years, obviously. And Albert's like, all right, y'all go pick out 3 suits. We're like, all right, cool. So this guy's got suits everywhere, so we pick out some suits, pick out some shirts to go with it, and some shoes. And he goes, is there anything else y'all want? We're like, no. This is a lot already. Like, I'm good now, dude. And I think Jaime got an extra pair of shoes or something like that. Nothing crazy. But yeah, those are probably
the price of these suits.
I don't think these were anything ridiculous. My custom suit that Jim got me was probably the same price as all 3 of them combined. Okay. I think. So they weren't anything too crazy. Okay. But I mean, Albert's buying us 3 suits, man. So it was you're not really complaining.
Yeah.
Didn't really matter. I'm sure to him anyways, it's absolutely nothing. That was his way of kind of taking care of the rookies. And there was a few times throughout the season where I'd have an outing, whether it was good or bad. Albert would always come over to me and he would say something and he'd be like, hey, you need to start mixing in some fastballs. Because like I told you, I was throwing 70% sliders that year. Right. I'm throwing slider. And Albert would grab him and be like, you gotta throw some more fastballs, Justin. And I'm like, he goes, you got a good fastball. Throw your fastball more. He goes, your slider's good. Your fastball's better. Throw your fastball. I'm like, all right.
Yes, sir.
I'm like, you got it. And, jokingly kind of like the ticking time bomb happened a couple years later. So,
Yeah. Well, just honestly, I have like 85 things we want to go over, but appreciate you coming on our podcast today, man.
Thanks, Jordan.
We had a great time. We're gonna have you back on as soon as it. And honestly, best luck to you this season.
Thank you.
And please have fun with the wife and the kid. Spend your time here. All right.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Jordan.
5, 4, 3, 2.